So in this video, I'd like to talk about comments about my previous video and explain my points a bit further. So I'll start with one of the comments here. It says, I really don't have a single clue how you could make a video like this and still have any form of self-respect left. Now, I'd like to start with that comment because I think it highlights some of how emotionally charged, especially from the gamer's perspective, the discussion is about the gaming industry. Because I think this viewer can't imagine that my opinion can be so far away from his own opinion on the topic. So he assumes there's something like inherently wrong with my opinion or some emotional issue with it. And I'd like to go to another comment. Here, this is actually from a long-time viewer, 4 years. Karkal, this video is a prime example of rage baiting by a YouTuber as you have explained it in your video. So my intention was not to rage bait with this video. It's a thing I wanted to talk about for a long time because I think there's a lot of distorted perceptions and a lot of overcharged emotionality in that topic. And I think a lot of people who make YouTube videos, they intentionally grift on that topic, amplifying that emotional charge. You see, I could have done something different here. For example, this video, it has currently 13% upvotes, 13. I think it's the most downloaded video I've ever made. And see, I could have done something different. I could have just analyzed the opinion cloud on that topic, jumped on the bandwagon, and keep firing or flaming that, or keep fanning the flame of that outrage, like evil publishers, evil developers, and possibly get my YouTube channel up to 100,000 subscribers, then get that really nice silver plaque, and be able to pay the rent from YouTube videos. But I'm not going to do that. Like, for example, if you watch my YouTube videos for a longer time, you may notice I've noticed I haven't made Arma videos recently for 2 months. Now, I still play Arma, and I still want to make videos about it, but currently there's not much in terms of news about the game. The last big patch was a long time ago. And I cannot make a new video every 1 or 2 days if I have nothing to talk about it. Like, I simply can't just talk random stuff just to fill the video with stuff. I can't do it. That's why I'm waiting or talking about another topic that's important for me. And I knew before I made the video, it's probably going to be unpopular, but I feel like I have to talk about it. So it's not trying to rage bait or just intentionally irritate people. And here's another interesting comment by Sarah Catherine. I'm going to focus on the second paragraph, which is, if this is not the case, then I would suggest doing some research about the topic SCG and relevant topics. Difference between developer and publisher, current state of the industry, publishers' bad practice, rights to own. The pauses alone can tell that you don't know what you're talking about. Now, I'll start with the pauses. Like, the way I like to record my videos, sometimes I have pauses in them because it's me actually thinking about what to say next. And I don't like to write a pre-written script and just read off it. It doesn't feel right to me to make videos like that. And now the thing about difference between developer and publisher. Now, I get that comment quite a bit in the comments for this video. But the thing is, perhaps I don't know how publisher-developer relationship works, but I think most people accusing me of not knowing how it works, I think they don't either have the full knowledge of how it works, because it's not always the same. Sometimes the publisher owns the development studio, which means they're technically not a department in the same building or in the same entity. And sometimes the publisher is just an investor that fronts the money. And sometimes the publisher is just an extra entity that helps the developer with marketing. I also think there's a lot of emotionally overcharged arguments about how the publisher is supposedly this evil demonic entity that forces the developer to do things they don't want to do, for which they then get blamed by the gamer. And I'll make another video about that because I think that's a topic on its own, which I don't agree with. And then current state of industry. Now, the thing is, if I want to research that term, now that term itself, the way it stands here, is emotionally charged. Now, I'm not saying that Sarah worded that to be emotionally charged, but just look at the term the way it stands. Now, before I typed it into YouTube, I could tell the type of video things I would get. So right here, current state of the gaming industry. Notice what I'm getting here. I get one video where somebody says high prices and less growth. So notice there's some implied negativity about the game industry in the video title. I'm not sure how negative it is. It's just the way it says high prices. Then here it says the sad state of the gaming industry. And it looks surprisingly bad. He hates it, and I'm not sure who that man in the picture is. I don't know. And then you got more about games. And here, games industry is screwed. Games industry crash just beginning. Now, most of those videos, they seem like intentional grifting on the concept. Not sure if all of them are. It's just from the topics I can see. Because here's the thing. Most of the opinions we'll find on YouTube will not go against the grain or against popular opinion that was established by some, I call it the opinion cloud. It's basically a combination of an averaged out opinion that all people have. And if opinion is too far from the other opinions, I think it's human nature to want to attack that opinion. So if I do that research, as Sarah suggested, on YouTube, I will get overwhelmingly one-sided comments or YouTube selections. And here's a point I'd like to make about the underlying reality. Part of my research is not just looking at what other people said about something with their own opinion. It's underlying the physical reality of the situation. Because it can show you certain physical realities that will contradict with somebody's opinion sometimes. And the underlying physical reality, if you get it right, always wins out over an opinion. Because it's reality. So for example here, that the concept of gaming industry crashing or dying, it's simply not true. I don't have to watch any of these videos to know that the industry is not screwed. No, allow me to explain. I would even say it's not screwed. It has been better than it has ever been in the history of all gaming, and every single day it gets better and better. You know why? Because here's a physical underlying reality. Human population is increasing on the whole planet. Now, some of these people will be customers of video games, and some of these people will be game developers. So you have an ever-expanding market of more and more people wanting to buy video games, and people who want to supply that demand with video games. And you have this gigantic array of different game developers spending all their days, or aspiring game developers, trying to figure out how to get rich making video games that people want to play. Thinking of new concepts, new gameplay, new graphics, whatever. That means if one game developer does something that's unpopular or not good with his customers, there's somebody else being able to fill that gap and provide something that that developer doesn't give them. But making YouTube videos saying everything's okay and it's not that bad, that doesn't add enough emotional contrast to get a lot of clicks on YouTube videos. And I think most of these recommendations of videos, those people learned early in their YouTube career to amplify opinions to high emotional contrast so they get more views in. No, I'm trying to get money on YouTube too, but I'm not going to make videos about something that I don't agree with. Or I'm not going to pretend that I'm agreeing with something in the video which I'm not doing. So that's a point I'd like to make about researching gaming or making videos. It's just if you need to examine the underlying physical reality of things. And Sarah also makes a point about publishers' bad practice. Again, if a publisher or developer, which sometimes can be the same thing, makes a bad decision that's unpopular, then players might not like it, and they will go to another publisher and or developer to buy a different product. And that the first developer who made the mistake will then probably reevaluate and change what they're doing so they get their customers back or get new customers. And that's, I think, the main point of the previous video I'm making, why I'm disagreeing with the Stop Killing Games initiative. I think there's enough incentive in the developers fearing a reputation hit to keep them from just deactivating games. And here's a comment where a viewer says, it's not about devs being allowed to fail, it's about publishers taking customers' money, then at some arbitrary point, taking that game away from them by shutting down servers, etc. I play these games because of the reasons I don't use Netflix or Spotify. Now, again, you need to look at the underlying physical reality. Do you really think large publishers would be that stupid to randomly deactivate games that people love? To just like, after you really want to, they want to have the reputation of being that publisher and or developer that after 5 or 6 years invalidates their own games. And I think somebody even made a comment that it's intentionally might be done so you buy the next game, so you can't play the old game. Like, do you really think they are that stupid? Now, if you think they are that stupid, and some people would say evil, again, it clashes with the underlying physical reality, because you don't make money by irritating your customers. You make money by giving your customers stuff that they like, so the next time they buy your stuff, they come back. And if you screw a customer over, they remember that for a long time. And the next comment here is, how is this hard to do when every game from the 19th to 2000s with multiplayer had an end-of-life plan already built in? Now, I think that it depends on the game. Now, the thing is, I don't disagree with players complaining about their favorite games getting deactivated. For example, somebody said in the comments, what if Ghost Recon Wildlands would have been turned off? I'd be upset. I love that game. But I would tell the developers to not do it. And if they would do it, I would make videos about it. But the thing is, I don't think it's a good idea to use laws to force it on the entire industry for the eventuality that somebody might be overdoing the deactivating in some form of edge case where there's like a game that everybody says they still love, but only like 10 people played per year. And as a last point, I think somebody made a comment about, for example, Arma. Because what if Arma would have had the servers turned off? Like when the servers got hacked and the game wasn't really playable because of the server hacking. Now, the thing is, I think the Arma developers, the only reason the game is so friendly to being detached, by that I mean it's pretty detachable. So if Bohemia would for some reason go out of business, it would be pretty easy for them to probably add some end-of-life patch for the game, so you can keep playing it without a master server. But the reason for that is, I think the game doesn't have an overarching gameplay structure that's attached to servers. Like everything happens on a server. Like even in DayZ, your progression is okay. I mean, DayZ is a slight exception. We have like an SQL database or something, where it's like a global server or a shard where the game attaches to it. But that's actually something that's easy to separate in that type of game. And I think Bethesda, no, not Bethesda. Did I say Bethesda? I mean Bohemia. Bohemia, I think, had the financial incentive to detach the servers from themselves as much as they can. Because I think there was a comment by Bohemia in, when was that? Sometime after DayZ was released, early access. They said that they spend several $100,000 per month for server costs, just to provide server space for players to play. So they had an incentive as fast as technically possible to have players run their own servers to detach themselves from the server cost. But there are other games where that doesn't work. For example, like Anthem, I think got shut down. I never played it, but I think it's one of these MOBAs with a pretty complicated back-end central server structure, where you can't just quickly detach it. It would be too much work. And here's the problem. If that law would force players force developers to either add servers running for decades, or the other option, to add some type of detached servers where you don't have to, where you can detach the game from the publisher, from the developer. But that's also a lot of extra work for an edge case that might not even apply, because most developers won't shut their games down, or most players would simply not care because the game is so dead that nobody's playing it anymore. I think forcing that into law is just a bad idea.